to talk about how to excel in law school. And in particular, I'm going to talk about 5 key principles to keep in mind throughout this course and when you're starting law school. Before I talk about those 5 principles though, I would like to dispel 2 myths that law students often have about students that graduate at the top of their class. The first myth is to graduate at the top of your class in law school, you have to be the smartest. And the second myth is, to graduate at the top of your class in law school, you need to work the longest hours. And both of those are false. When I went to law school, I graduated as the #1 law student, and I was not the smartest, and I did not work the longest hours. In fact, there were a lot of students who were much smarter than I was. They would go to class, they would understand things at a more intuitive level than I would. I would be confused, I would have to go home and study my class notes for a couple hours to catch up to where they were instantly in class. Of course, you need some baseline level of intelligence to succeed in law school, but you probably have that or you wouldn't be admitted into law school in the first place. The second thing is, you don't necessarily have to work the longest hours. It is true that law school is a lot of work, and you have to put the time in if you want to succeed. But when I was in law school, I worked very hard. However, I still took every single Sunday off. And what I realized was, while it's very important to put the time in and to have that baseline level of intelligence, that's not what determines law school success. Because you can work very hard in law school and not do well. And you can be very, very smart and not do well. By and large, what determines success in law school is having a good strategy and having an efficient approach. So that's what we're going to talk about in this course. And in this session, we're going to talk about 5 key principles to help you succeed in law school. So the first key principle that we want to discuss is that success in law school equals success on law school final exams. In law school, you will have that one final exam for each course that determines your whole grade for that class. That's the traditional way of teaching a law school class. Always check your syllabus just to make sure that your professor did not change this, but for all of your core substantive law school classes like contracts, criminal law, torts, civil procedure, real property, and constitutional law, typically it's just that one final exam that will determine everything. The one exception to this is legal writing, where you often have assignments throughout the semester. But for your other classes, you have to focus on that exam from the beginning if you want to succeed in law school, because that exam determines your whole grade. So keep that exam in mind from day 1 of law school. What you don't want to do is put off thinking about that final exam until right before it happens, like a lot of law students do. Then you'll make the mistake of probably working really hard throughout the semester, but not necessarily working efficiently. The second principle to keep in mind is that law school exams test how well you know the law and how well you can apply it. And that is it. This is something that's really important to keep in mind throughout the semester. So if you want to excel on that law school final exam, which you do because it's probably going to determine 100% of your grade, then you need to know the law and you need to be able to apply it. So how do you learn the law? You prepare for class, you outline, and you learn your outlines. And how do you get good at applying it? You learn a good exam-taking strategy and then you practice that strategy. We're going to teach you all of these skills in this course so that you do not feel lost and you know exactly what to do. Principle number 3 is that the #1 thing to focus on is what your professor says in class. Remember that your professor writes your law school exam, your professor grades your law school exam, and your professor will test what they teach. Any supplements you use, like horn books, case briefs, or other outlines, are there to help you if you need them, but they're there to supplement your class notes. Supplements should not be your main focus. Your class notes should. Principle number 4 is to be flexible. We're going to give you a specific strategy to use throughout law school, and this is the general strategy you should follow. But you might find you take a slightly different approach for each of your classes, depending on your professor's style, and that is okay. For example, when I was in law school, I had a criminal law professor that would grill students about the facts of cases, so I would read my casebook more closely. But I had a civil procedure professor that rarely examined the cases at that microscopic level, and instead only looked at the big picture. So I took a different approach to that class and focused less on the nitty-gritty and more on the big picture. This is all to say it is perfectly normal to vary your specific approach depending on your professor, and it might take you some time to get into a routine that is normal for you as well. The last principle is that it is okay to not follow the crowd. It is easy to get caught up in what everyone else is doing in law school. Focus on yourself and your strategy to succeed. Do what you need to do to succeed. Do not worry about what everyone else is doing or feel pressured by it. Everyone is a new law student. No one in your class has been a law student before. It is new to all of you. So those are the 5 principles to keep in mind throughout this course. In this course, we're going to teach you how to study efficiently in law school. In addition to covering the substantive law for each of your core 1L classes, as well as legal writing in this course, we're going to teach you how to put these 5 principles into practice so that you're preparing for class, outlining, learning your outlines, learning the exam-taking strategy of IRAC, and practicing that strategy. And we're also going to not only teach you these skills and give you the chance to practice them, but we're going to teach you how to make a study schedule so that you are studying efficiently from day 1 of law school.